And he said, I am so sorry you've had this trouble. He said, so I commit to you that we are going to be able to take care of the issue and we won't stop until it's complete. And I needed that kind of calm.
And that all just brought the temperature down and made you believe in him and like he's got your back. We're in. Let's go. Let's get this fixed.
That's it. And so in doing so, he managed to tap into the emotion and hook me. Welcome back to Unapologetic Rabble-Rousers. This is Carla Lewis.
Shit show take 22.
And that's Doc Shelley. And we are just living the dream right now because technology has really been messing with us. And it feels like kind of a candid camera moment. And so why not? So we were recording an episode that was going to be, and probably still should be, called The Shit Show.
Shit Show. Literally, that is what we called it.
Yep. And we were excited to be able to redo it because the first time we did it, it disappeared. And then just moments
Guess what?
we just did it again and it disappeared. So we think it might be the topic. Not that we called it The Shit Show, but it was about a really ugly technical experience. And it seems that we're not supposed to get the word out, but we are rabble-rousers and we're unapologetic about it. And so
we're unapologetically not giving up.
That's right. That's right. And while this may not, it's going to be exactly what it's supposed to be. And it will be of the same kind of material, but there's going to be a different attitude about it because now we're bored with no, it's not that we're bored with the topic. We have recorded it twice already. But yeah, Michelle, what do you think? We can power through this. This is going to be probably one of the most focused and, just get it done kind of episodes we've ever done.
Yeah, let's just do this.
Okay.
What we had talked about twice before, and y'all get the gem of the third take on this, which the more takes we do, the worse we get. So, we're very good off the cuff, and then when we try to duplicate things, it just doesn't work real well. But anyway, about a week ago, well, actually a week ago to the day that we're recording this, Miss Carla, for the third time, we're not bitter. Carla had a really unfortunate experience with some technology and a scam, basically. So she'll give a short version of all the things that have ensued since a simple phone call. And we'll talk about that and loop it around some of the things that we typically talk about on our podcast. So with a public service announcement, Carla, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. Okay. So the public service announcement is you practice safe computing. The whole notion that we are vulnerable in so many different ways because of our connectivity, our connection to the internet and what that all represents. So the short story is that I needed support from Norton customer service after 2 hours of having been totally not supported. And I did a Google search. Up came a Norton branded, here's the number that you call. And I called it. And I went off on the person that answered the phone. It wasn't their fault. They hadn't even been a part of the conversation. They were just the one that answered the phone. And I went on and on about, I needed to talk to management because I had just had a horrific customer service experience, blah, blah, blah. I'd spent 2 hours, blah, 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 chat this and that and redirected and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And this person took it all in and said, I can appreciate that you've had a very frustrating experience and I'm sorry for that. And so I want you to know, because I had demanded, I wanted to speak to management and I had a technical issue. And he says, I want you to know I am a manager and I am in fact the lead technical support person. He had a nice title for it. I've run out of adult words, but it was that kind of a thing. And he said, I am so sorry you've had this trouble. He said, so I commit to you that we are going to be able to take care of the issue and we won't stop until it's complete. And I needed that kind of calm.
And that all just brought the temperature down and made you believe in him and Like, he's got your back. We're in. Let's
That
go.
it
Let's get
did.
this fixed.
That's it. And so in doing so, he managed to tap into the emotion and hook me. Now, why am I saying that? Because the phone number that I dialed from that Norton badged ad or bulletin board, whatever it was, wasn't Norton. It wasn't Norton at all. And after having shown me that I was going to be safe in his care, he proceeded to lead me through steps to take care of the technology issue, but it wasn't really taking care of the issue. What it was is it was gaining access to the keys to my kingdom. And this is a real short version, don't you think, Michelle?
It's very concise.
By the end of the almost 2 hours I spent on the phone with him, thousands of dollars had been harvested from bank accounts, credit cards, all because he asked me one question after he gave me the spiel. And we've all probably had some version of this where you contact somebody, I need some technical support, and they say, okay, we want to get some remote connection to your machine so that we can check settings, blah, 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 whatever. So
Right.
I had done that at his request. And he said, okay, first thing we need to do is find out whether or not your IP address is protected, because that'll give us a clue about which way we need to go in terms of speccing out the fix. Makes sense. Made all kinds of sense.
All sounds good.
Yep. And then he had me, don't ever do this if there's somebody else on your computer. I don't give a shit what kind of support they're saying they're going to give you. Do not do this. He said, okay, we're going to see if your IP is protected. This address is like your social security number, but it's for your device. It's a little bit different than the IP we talk about a lot.
It's not the 191.24. Yeah.
It's like the root. And so whatismyip.com. Now, I would invite people to consider doing this under veil of darkness and such, because you want to
Not
see
under
whether
duress.
because you want to know, are you protected or not?
Mm-hmm.
But so there he was watching, and it comes up, my IP number and the words not protected and a whole bunch of other stuff. He says, okay, all right, now I know which direction we need to go because you're not protected. Oh, well, he took me for a ride. And after spending some time going through and I'm following his instructions, in the meantime, that machine, that scam machine, was on full force performance. They wormed in, they did things even like they rerouted my emails from Amazon, which was sending emails I didn't know about, saying there's some peculiar activity on your account. Thank you for your purchase of this $250 gift card. Thank you for your purchase of this $500 gift card. I never saw them until I did a search 4 days later because I was trying to get into my Amazon account and I couldn't. And so I called them and they said, well, we sent them. Maybe you need to check. And would you think about, yeah, I'm going to go and just do a search and see how many of these emails from who knows who haven't been received in my inbox. They just skirted the inbox and went to some archive hoop-de-doo folder. Anyway, okay. But over the period of time that I was with him on the phone, all of this stuff was going on. And it all started with that. Whatismyip.com. Now that's a legitimate site. So please understand, it gives you legitimate information. The fact is you do not want to have that information exposed to illegitimate people. So here's the first PSA. When I saw that, I'd done a Google search. Dr. Google said, this is the one. Here it is. And it was Norton badge. It looked all official and everything like that. Here's what you can do. If you hover your mouse pointer, don't click, but hover your mouse pointer over any link or any identifying hyperlink looking information, there will be somewhere on your screen something that pops up from behind the mask that they may have placed over the real link. And we've all seen it. Click here, click this link And you don't know what's behind it or where it's taking
Right.
you. But if you hover over that, it will show you. And if what it shows you somewhere on your screen, it'll be the long, ugly URL. If it doesn't look like it really is legitimately, in this case, Norton, I don't care if it has the word Norton far down. If it's not Norton in that first like 12 to 15 characters,
www.norton.com.
yeah,
Help.
don't go.
Don't
not
do it.
Don't pay attention to it, because I wasn't even clicking on a link. I was looking for a phone number because I didn't want to talk to anybody online. I wanted to talk to a person. So I wasn't going to click anything, but it would have told me that the information was being provided by somebody that wasn't Norton. So if anybody gets nothing else out of this, and I will forever now be validating with that hover method to make sure that whatever link I might think, or even whatever information I might be considering, is actually related to the source that I expect.
It's, as you were saying that, it's so not funny, but kind of ironic that I get so frustrated sometimes with some of these companies that don't have phone numbers to call anymore. And I'm like, well, maybe I can now appreciate that they don't have phone numbers, because how easy it is for somebody to fake it.
Well, there's
like
that.
These people did.
Right. There's that. And there's also, nobody calls a security company to report good news. They're not calling because they're happy with their service. They're not calling because they're really comfortable with something that's going on. No, they're calling because there's some kind of trouble. That's why we pay the people to sit on the help desk or whatever.
Right.
So at the end, when I finally figured out what was actually happening, was when at 10 minutes to 11 on a Sunday night, this technical leader asked where I lived, if there were any Target, Walmart, Walgreens, Rite Aid stores. I said, I'm not sure how that's relevant, but yes. He says, okay, I need you to go to what, and I stopped him. When I heard, I want you to go, my stomach dropped. I said, you need me to go to one of those places? Why? To authenticate yourself. And then I knew. I said, I've spent over 2 hours on the phone with you.
Now you want me to authenticate myself?
And now you've got the keys to my kingdom. You've scammed me. You have been scamming me this whole time. You've got the keys to my kingdom. How proud your mother must be. And he hung up. I didn't even say it really nasty or mean, but he knew the jig was up. So what did I do?
He was caught. Caught is caught.
Caught is caught. So what I did, I said, I'm going to call that phone number back. And what did I get? This number is not in service.
This number is no longer in service. That fast.
Yeah.
Like a one-time.
Well, I would like to think it was one time. So this is the gift that keeps on giving, which is another part of the PSA. If you get real careful up front, and I didn't click an errant link, I didn't click an unknown anything. I had a Norton badged looking thing that said, here's the number you need to call. So interesting enough that this episode that we were going to talk about, that we are talking about this is the third time we're recording it. Now, since then, I spent a few days completely offline. It ended up, I brought in a cybersecurity company. They deep cleaned my laptop, and I ended up having to scrub my phone. I had to reset it, factory reset, which is always just so special. But that did nothing to change that locator information that they had. So wherever this PC would go, they could find it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to include two things. One, I included a hardware and software firewall, serious protection, because this, again, is the gift that's going to keep on giving. And then there is an FCC regulation put in play early in 2024 about this very kind of thing, about the fact that the IP itself was now exposed. And the ISP, so your internet service provider, is required by federal law to respond to that with a change. They call it an oscillation. Of course, why not use a 5-syllable word for a change? Oscillate the IP number. And they have something like 24 hours to respond. Well, my cybersecurity guy made the call to my ISP, which happened to be AT&T. And they said, no, we don't do that. And he said, well, there's this law. Yeah, well, we don't do that. So he, being a cybersecurity guy, called the FCC, and we spoke with Shannon, who submitted the report on my behalf, which made it to the president of AT&T. And it took 4 days, but I got a new IP. Between the old one and the new one was several days. So anyway, it's pretty amazing, the things I'm learning about how exposed we are. And in fact, all of this, we talked about that you want to take the energy and do something good with it. Bad stuff happens. And I'm adopting this approach that says it happens for me, not to me. Sometimes it's difficult to figure out what this purpose really could be, but it is for a purpose. And I'm turning that into common sense, common language, just general conversation around what does cybersecurity threats, how did these happen? What is cyber hygiene really? How serious should we be about those secure passwords, the ones that the computer wants to generate, which, I can't remember. No, it's got to be Katie's next door neighbor. I can remember Katie's next door neighbor, but I'm here to tell you folks, as sophisticated as we think we are, there are people who are focused on beating every sophisticated protection that we want to put in place. I don't want to use VPN because it slows stuff down. It creates a private tunnel that does in some ways protect you from things. I don't want to have two-step authentication because it takes time. I'm telling you, I would trade all the time I have spent just on one bank card and all of the crap that went on that. I would trade for an extra 30 seconds of getting into something. So I'm not going to go down the whole path, but what this has helped me develop is a presentation, a speech, some checklists, all of this in a concentrated resource guide and public service announcement kind of a thing. I'm going to be offering some classes, free classes on say, this is what can happen and this is what being at risk looks like. And here are the things you need to do. Here's what you should do. Because Michelle and I, one of the iterations of this we talked about, it's like when you get that gut, it's like you can't even breathe. You've been kicked in the gut so hard. What do? Well, in those first 12 to 15 minutes, all I could do was react. But I had to turn that into action because sitting there grieving about it was not going to change the fact that every moment I was bleeding. So I had to stop the bleeding. So even in this thing that I'm putting together is going to be, here's what you do to stop the bleeding right now. You got to issue. This is kind of like having it next to that fire blanket that you can pull off in case the oil overheats on your stove and you catch it on fire. Okay. So that's what I got for that.
So we often talk about, first, thank you for sharing all of that. We often talk about how that first step from zero to action is the hardest step to take. So you talked about that 12 to 15 minutes and then I got to handle this. What goes in your head to get you to take that first step, whether it's this circumstance or any other circumstance?
In that moment, and I think through other experiences where I've had to face some emergent situations, like, okay, you got to take stock. It's like that cold water. There's a cold water moment. Maybe it's just me, but there's this piece where you go through and I drained quickly. I was totally undone. And then you take this breath and it's like, okay, something's got to get done. Something has to get done. And there's this cold water moment. It says, okay, like you slap yourself and say, okay, what do I need to do? I liken it to if you've got a big cut, your wrist or somewhere, and you got to stop the bleeding. And so what did that mean? What did that mean? For me, in that moment, all I knew was that people had access to my information, my bank's credit cards. So stop that bleeding. What do you do? And I wasn't quite sure where to actually go, but that's going to be available in the checklist. I can tell you that. And being able to make these calls, call the one of the reporting organizations, reporting bureaus, not call, you could just go online and say, I've been hacked. And they alert everybody, and that just transfers out. It's like if you have somebody who passes in your life, somebody, as soon as it is recorded at a funeral home, that social security number, that all of that information goes out. Well, I'm finding it very much is so in the world of finance as well. When somebody flags a social security number or a name for fraud, there's a great deal of communication that just ramps up. So being aware of that. But it was a cold water moment. It's just saying, okay, crying about this, feeling what an idiot I am that I got pulled into this, as smart as I am, as much as I have spent my life in technology, that I would dial the phone number on something that looked legit. And having exposed my soul to this person simply through my anger. So that's another thing. There's one thing about the cold water moment saying, okay, this is awful. This just happened. This is awful. What do I need to do right now? What do I need to do right now? And that helps the next steps unfold, but stop the bleeding. Stop the bleeding.
Mm-hmm. So I think as you think about that situation and how he was able to tap into, this lady is emotional, she's mad, I'm going to just calm her down and lure her in. And you think about how prevalent that kind of behavior is in other areas of life, with clients, in the workplace, and how many people are masters of that kind of manipulation. You think about gaslighting that we've talked about. Yep. That's all that same kind of manipulation of taking advantage of somebody in their emotional state, whatever that state is.
Yes. In fact, I hadn't thought about it till just now that, excuse me, that it was about gaslighting. He was trying to make me believe something that wasn't true. And he did a fine job.
He did a hell of a job.
Honestly. So you think about neuro-linguistic programming. You think about the kinds of training that goes into being that kind of crook. And he was masterful. I thought about it. I've had a chance to think a little bit about it in different ways. And one of it was, boy, from a marketing point of view, this guy's really good. He got right into the conversation that was going on in my head because I, for the most part, exposed it. Right. But he got right in there and he worked with it. And he worked with it to get me to a point where I would feel calm. And because he had helped calm me out of this storm I was in, then there was a trust that was growing. And he played that. He played that. And he says, then he starts to become my buddy.
Right.
He said, oh my gosh, he said, write these things down. And this is right after he got my MP, Amazon, Zelle, Venmo, Cash App, Liberty X, which is a crypto thing. All of these, there were 11 of them. And he said, okay, do you have accounts with any of these? I said, yeah, most of them. He said, there are over 2,900 attempts to use your identity in transactions related to these organizations. What? Okay. Now he's on my side.
Right. He brought you down to okay, now she's calm. And now I'm just going to elevate her emotional state again. And now she knows she believes I'm on her side.
Yep. And it went from there. It was masterful.
There's a documentarian called Maria Van Zeller who's on National Geographic. And I know I've mentioned her to you a couple times. And she does these amazing documentaries where she goes in she's been to the Amazon jungle with a drug cartel. She's been in Los Angeles with the gangs. And she has done a lot of work with people that scam, whether it's those romantic that somebody falls in love with somebody they've never met
Catfish.
and catfishing and sends thousands of dollars, or it's something like you've experienced. But she went in and she talked to these people, and most of them are not in the United States. And they think that all Americans have excess money and that it's not a big deal to steal thousands of dollars from them. That's fine. They'll recover from it. And so in her interviewing with these people, it's interesting how they justify they know they're doing the wrong thing, but they excuse it because Americans are all rich, which we all know is not true. And they look at it as a means to feeding their family. And for some of them, it is a family affair. It's wild.
Yes. Yes. And we talked about that at length because someone I know was catfished. And it has been really, really difficult.
Yeah.
Really difficult. So much damage done.
Oh, and yeah, and not just financially, the mental damage of feeling taken advantage of, feeling suckered, falling prey to I know it's
I'm raising my hand.
It doesn't feel good to be taken advantage of.
Oh no.
But to have the mental strength and the mental clarity to take the actions that, for example, that you had to take, that when you're catfished, that you have to go through to turn that around, it takes tremendous inner strength. And typically, not always, your case in point, a lot of the people that get taken advantage of are those that don't have a lot of inner strength, that don't have a lot of self-confidence and a lot of self-worth, which we talk about in the next couple episodes. But they just don't have that. So they become easier targets. You're not an easy target. But because of the heightened emotional state you were in and the way he manipulated that situation and he gaslit you, it started to feel good. Okay, this guy's got my back. I found the right man. He's on the job.
Not only that, he found problems I didn't even know I had. Oh my gosh.
You said that a couple, like he educated me. I was learning stuff. He was like, this is a smart cookie. So I need to teach her some things she probably doesn't know. I would it would just be so fascinating, like a fascinating case of human behavior, except for the fact you lived it, to just watch one of these people in action. It's fascinating to me how devious the human brain can be and how some people just don't like, this guy's living. This is what he does for a living.
Yep.
He scams people.
Yes.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy to me.
Yes. Hopefully there's something that we can take from this. What we like to be able to do is leave our listeners with encouragement about things that you can do or think or try to be better protected in this case than you were before you started listening to this episode. And I know what I had to do. And this is a gift that we'll keep on giving. And we talked in one of the takes on this about the fact that for the first few days, I had something like a post-traumatic response to anything that didn't go perfectly online. If I couldn't get into a website or an account, it was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It was real quick to amplify. And then we've talked a lot across many episodes about the stories we tell ourselves. And it's easy to get caught up in them. And what I've had to do this week in particular was to say, okay, I'm getting caught. Okay, wait. Check the story. What's the story? All you know is you cannot get into this account right now. There's a number of reasons that could be true. And my word for 2025 is focus. And so it became a mantra. Okay, wait a minute, check the story, focus. And that's what's gotten me through at least this first week.
Yeah. And like when you check the story, it's, of course, that's going to be a thought that I had. Look what just happened. And sometimes that's all you need to do is go, I expected that thought to come to my mind, fully expect it. You can fully expect that to happen again. And then, as soon as that thought comes in your mind that you can just be, you're going to be quiet now. We're going to go this direction. We're not going to wallow in the, I can't believe this happened to me again. We know we can't believe it happened. And now we're going to move on. Yeah. But sometimes we can anticipate when those stories are going to pop up, when those thoughts are going to pop up, because we know ourselves. Yes. And so you can immediately shut that down and just keep moving forward, having better thoughts, different thoughts, healthier thoughts.
Absolutely. And I hope that at least one person is able to save themselves from anything close to this. And it doesn't have to be an online scam. So many different things. But yeah, check the story.
Indeed.
And focus. Just focus on what needs to happen now. If you need to feel the emotions, do it later. There's time. I did it for 12 to 15 minutes, and then it was like, okay, this isn't getting me any safer than I was.
Yeah, and I think it's important that as a person who for a long time just didn't deal with my feelings, I think it's really important to deal with them, whether it's in the moment or I got to set those aside so I can take action and come back to it later. But I like that you in 12 to 15 minutes, 17 minutes, give or take 5, that you were able to go, okay, like I need to start taking action here. I can sit in the suck a little bit later, but for right now, I got to do something. But I think it's really important, no matter what the situation is, that we're able to deal with the feelings and move forward in a relatively healthy pace, whatever that may be. For some people, it's going to be fast. For other people, it's going to take a minute. But to always come back to those emotions and those feelings, because it's important that we process them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have, and I continue to. And that's because it's kind of fresh. And even if it's not fresh, I need to be aware of it because it kicks up some stories. We talk about triggers, and we talk about the habit brain and the CEO brain and all of these pieces and how they come together. So I might be teasing future things, but I appreciate the opportunity to share it. And thank you for trying this a third time. And we're going to pray that the recording sticks.
Yes. God willing. Indeed. I'm sure we missed some fabulous stuff that we talked about in the first 2 takes, but nonetheless, here we are.
Here we are. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. I'm Doc Shelley.
And I'm Carla Lewis. Play it safe out there. We've talked a lot across many episodes about the stories we tell ourselves, and it's easy to get caught up in them. And what I've had to do this week in particular was to say, okay, I'm getting caught. Okay, wait. Check the story. What's the story? It became a mantra. Okay, wait a minute. Check the story. Focus.